So this is Baruch, and tonight is the third night of Chanukah, and we're here going to read the Tivah Kavanos. Let me just show you this is the book again. Tivah Kavanos is an oldie, and that I've had around for a while. And let's come over here and take a look at what the Holy Rav, the ARI Kodesh, has written about Inyan Chanukah V'Purim Huba Openacher. It's not like Shabbos Yom Tov Rosh Chodesh. Kitavaihu Inan Bahod, because both of them have to do with Hod. Ba'afal Pisha B'Defida Chakras B'Chol Bi'arno. Now, this is what we have to understand, that there is a yichud that takes place at this time between Yaakov, who's Netzach, and Malchus, who is moved to the Hod of Zer Anpin. L'kaviv Zecha B'Chol Hu Kodesh Yosef Mechanukah Purim, and because of this, it's more Kodesh than Chanukah and Purim. Asher Tavaichu Inim B'Chod, that both of them have to do with Hod only. Now, this whole idea, I'm not sure I got it, so let's see what the Tivah Kavanos has to do to try to help me out to understand this better. About Chanukah B'Purim Hu B'Open Acher, he says, that's what the words of the Rav. The Klal Yadu Alonu Hu, because the general idea that we know is that B'Meha Chol Yaakov Oma B'Netzach Dezah, Barachel Omedet B'Chod Dezah. You understand that the point of the Shmona Esrei and everything that we do is to bring Shefa into the world, and that comes as a result of Yehudim. So what we call Yaakov, which is really a partzuf in the front of Zer Anpin for the Schaz and Lamata, and then what we call his wife, the Nukva, the Zer Anpin, which is Rachel, she's going to be moving around from the back of Zer Anpin, where she's from the Schaz and Lamata, to the front. She takes a position on Hod. So you have Yaakov and Netzach and Rachel at Hod. There they're going to meet together, they're going to come together and make a yichud that takes place during the Shemona Esrei. So he said, Rachel Omedet B'Chod. So you have Yaakov at Netzach and you have Rachel Omedet B'Chod, the Zer Anpin. V'kach na'asech b'yichud Yaakov and Rachel. So this is how you make actually this yichud between Yaakov and Rachel. Amna b'bei Chanukah, b'bei B'Purim, but these times, yesh b'chem tosefes kedusha b'hu, so that's not just like that. There is an additional amount of kedusha, and is what? That the vaychu chainu zun haktanim. So we were talking about, they call this zun haktanim. In other words, they're opposites, male and female, but they're not the same height as Zer Anpin. So they're from his chest downwards. That's where they're located, and so that's why they're called the zun haktanim. Yaakov Rachel Shedechem Omni B'Chod, because this time that Yaakov was originally at Netzach and Malchus, or the Nuk, Rachel was at Hod. So that goes with the right side being Yaakov and the left side going with the Nukva. But it turns out here that in Chanukah and Purim, I think you might be talking about Purim too, both of them are at Hod. So even then, the male aspect pulls the shefa that he has from Hod. So there's a long beer over here in the shefa kabanos, and maybe there would be something there we could do, but we're not going to do it. So he says, so let's go on to number Tes Zion. Tes Zion says, V'afal pishin is boyesh b'tefidus chakras b'chol b'eish na'asach hayichud b'tefidus amid, and I understand that the whole purpose of all of the davening we do, particularly in chakras, is to bring about this yichud between opposites, between the major opposites of male and female, which is Zera Anpin and his Nukva, or Zun Akatanim, which is in this case is Yaakov and Rachel. So he says the whole purpose of that is to bring that about. V'afal pishin is barsha b'tefidas shachris b'chol b'eisha na'asach hayichud b'tefidas amida. The yichud takes place at the Shemona Esrei. Yaakov Omer Benetzach Dezah Malchus Hainu Rachel, that is, Rachel stands Omedes B'Hod Dezah. The B'Meha Chol HaZivuk Hu B'Zun HaKatanim K'noidim. So that's what we said, is that it's taking place between those two. They're not the big zone that takes place other times, but this is the little zone. The Nimsa de Mehachol Yoser Kodesh Memei Chanukah, because it's going to come out that the weekday is going to be more Kodesh than Chanukah. So it takes all the Netzach is on the right side. This is the side of the male. So during the regular weekday, the male, which is Yaakov, we call it Yaakov. Lokeach hashefa b'makom b'netzach b'makomo. It takes the shefa from its place in Netzach. Ve'in tzarich lered b'makomo. It doesn't have to go anywhere else. That's where it's its normal size. But in Chanukah, they're both found on Hod, which means they're drawing their shefa from Hod. So therefore, Yaakov has to go to a different sphere. He has to go to the left side in order to be able to pick up his shefa. So now we're talking here about Rosh Chodesh. Let's see if we can understand something from that. In regards to the concept of Yom Tov, he Hanuk Yesh Lo Oz Tosefes Kedusha, because on Rosh Chodesh there is an additional amount of kedusha that comes from the nukva side. That's the left side. The Jusha Oz Mekabelas Harosecho. That now she's getting her light. That means her sustenance that would build her up. The Oros Ayede Atzma through herself. Shelo Ayede Baila. She doesn't need Zeranpin to give it to her, or Yaakov, as we're saying. V'chein Hukan, so the same thing is here. Now I still need some explanation here. He said, Ki ne b'chol, Yaakov Yoneka Raso v'chedeka Arashalal, min ha-netzach min ha-hod. So he says that during the weekday, he says Yaakov, he feeds, that is the ha'ara that he needs, v'chedeka Arashalal, he has both of them, and he gets them from min ha-netzach min ha-hod. So then after that, he has both of them. And this is the pattern always takes place with the male aspect. He has his part, and he has the part for her as well. So he says, Kach noisin laharasa of a nimshach minahod al yado. So it comes therefore from the hod through him. So in other words, he gives it to her. But now let's talk about these two holidays, which are Chanukah and Purim. She is able to feed the source of her light, that is the light that sustains her, minahod, by herself. She doesn't have to be fed that by Zeranpin. Shalo ayedei baila, not through Yaakov, who is her husband. And so therefore she's not subservient to him like she is during the weekday. So he wants to explain like this: and since the Nook is achieving a certain amount of extra shefa, so therefore she has an additional amount of kedusha alecha bezmanim elo yosef b'chol, more than the weekday, because she's getting her light independently from Hod itself. Now let's see on number Yud Ches up here what we got going, and let's try to get into it. Aval Inyan hu al derek mal shebarana bedrashi Rosh Chodesh al Inyan the Yom Tov sheyesh b'Rosh Chodesh the Nook. In regards to that has to do with the Rosh Chodesh and the Nook. The Hanuk yesh lo b'Rosh Chodesh tosefes kedusha, because what happens is on Rosh Chodesh she gets an additional amount of kedusha. Pirish the Bekal Hashonach Hashefa Hayared al Nook, because all year long the shefa that comes to the Nook, Yared the Hida the Yaakov Amash the Nook, and this is the way things always go. That the shefa goes into the male aspect, and he has his shefa and her shefa. Over Rosh Chodesh, Hanuk Mekabelas Orasecha V'Chashefa Be'emsa Ba'atzma. But on Rosh Chodesh, she gets the shefa by herself. She doesn't need Zeranpin as an intermediary. Shelo Ayedera B'Bayla Yaakov. So in here he's calling it Yaakov. Yaakov is the Zun, and Rachel are the Zun Katanim. V'Zera B'Tosefes Kedusha Yesh Lo Oz, and this is the additional amount of Kedusha she now has. The Havi Shefa Chazak Yosef V'Zechu Yom Tov Shalah, so that she has a Shefa which is very strong. It's stronger than would it be on Yom Tov. Should the Havi Shefa Chazak Yosef V'Zechu Yom Tov Shalah, so therefore I read it wrong. That is her Yom Tov. So you have the same thing as in Chanukah. The B'Kol Yemei HaChol Yaakov Yonek HaRasa Sheshayach Lo Hainochem in Masha Nishbam Memidas Netzach Dezah. So he says that Netzach comes before Hod. So all the shefa in the weekday comes through the zer. He says the zer anpin. It comes through the midah of the netzach of zer anpin. And so he also feeds what or receives as a feeding what's shaykh to the nok. Hainu mashad nishba b'bidus ahodizah. Shnechem mekabel Yaakov dechidas, and normally Yaakov gets what's going to go to Hod, and he's going to get what goes to Netzach. V'zecha kabanas Rab sheyonek harasa v'harasa nok, so that he gets his own feeding. He feeds himself, but he also has the food for the nok. Hu yonek mishnechem gam chelko shuhu benetzav zah v'gam mashu shayk the nok. So and also what goes to her behind the sefiras hod zah, that is the hod from zah goes into netzach first, and then it comes to the nok. Achakach Yaakov knows in the nok. Then after that Yaakov has both. He gives it over to Rachel. Harasa, the hind, that is his light, which is the food that he's talking about. Hind of arasa hod shaycholah, that is the real light of ha'ara really means radiance of the light of the hod shayachas law. The he mekabelas arasechol liyada, because whatever she has, she gets from him. The Yaakov atzma bekabel b'techida bekoda b'shneichel. So Yaakov always gets first. Haina netzach b'hod zah, that is the netzach goes to the netzach, and the hod zah kamosha kasavna, they're both inside of Yaakov. L'pashatu the ha'arach shebekabelas the nuk nechlosh katzas, and since it has to be filtered through Yaakov, so therefore we have to understand that the shefa that the nuk gets is really secondhand, because it first was inside of Yaakov. So he says, but now something's changed. B'mei ha'Chanukah, b'mei ha'Purim, kabosha nevar b'makomo. We'll talk about Purim when Purim comes. Eine mekabelas ha'arasa al yado ella. She doesn't get the ha'ara from secondhand through Yaakov. Ella, but rather Chanuk mekabelas ha'asecho min ha'hod zechat miyad ma'atzma. So she gets it immediately from Zer Anpin for herself. So it doesn't have to be mixed up. She is avor. So should pass through the shefa, should have to pass through her husband Yaakov, kamon b'kol shana kedeksa kedekasa v'rav the ale, like the Rav says up above. Ve'ein l'tefeila the baila Yaakov, so she's not subservient to him. Masha ein came b'mei achol, which is not the case in the weekday. So she needs her husband, and she's subservient to him. But when she receives by herself, she's no longer subservient. So this is an independence of the female aspect, and we'll finish up right here. So he said, Yaakov, she doesn't need Yaakov. So this is the additional amount of kedusha sheyesh the nuk b'Chanukah that comes to the nuk in Chanukah. And here we're talking about the shchina. Yosim me'achol. The haklal hu kasha echad sarech litain ma'ora l'hasheni, that when one entity has to give from its light to a second one, who knows in Rakatamsis, he only gives the essence of the light. But now Shahanuk is who let me see. The haklal hu kasha echad sarech litain ma'ora l'hasheni, who knows in Rakatamsis. So the Tamsis really means the essence of the light, but I think he's only giving an aura. Let me see. Now she's getting the light by herself. It doesn't have to come to a second party. But Yosef, she gets much more light than she would get. So understand, this is the secret of the additional amount of kedusha that Chanukah has over the weekday. Because we're called the children of Zun. And where do we get our shefa from? We get it from Rachel. Now Rachel is being built up. So therefore Rachel, who's now getting the shefa by herself, on a Makabli Shefa Yosef Gadol, we get a bigger amount of shefa coming to us.